everyone. I'm Kate Stanley, Director of Programming at the Center for Communication. Welcome to today's session, the do's and don'ts of resumes and LinkedIn profiles. And for anyone coming in, feel free to sit closer to the front because it's going to be a smaller group. This session will be led by Rob Barnett. He is headhunter, author, and guest speaker. As founder of Rob Barnett Media, an inclusive platform for thousands of job-seeking professionals and industry leaders, he has helped to place hundreds of talented creators and executives in senior management roles at MTV, VH1, and Audible and Amazon. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you all for coming this morning. I really appreciate it. I made it from New Jersey. It wasn't easy, but I got here on time, which was a miracle. I'm the kind of presenter that believes that when you come to something like this, it usually can be frustrating to watch an entire presentation, and then they say at the end, we have time for a few questions, and there's 2 questions. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm the opposite. So I'm going to try to take maybe about half of the time, and leave the rest to you to ask the questions that you're most interested in. So we'll have plenty of time to do that. I started my career, like I think just about everybody I know in media, with some great internships. That was the beginning for me. And I went to Boston University. I fell in love with not a human, but the campus radio station. And I ended up spending way too much time there and not enough time in my classes. But I got the bug really, really early that I wanted to be in broadcasting. And, first, working at that campus radio station gave me the flavor, gave me the hands-on experience. But then I really wanted to find my way into internships where I could hopefully do a little bit more than go get lunch and, help people out with menial tasks. I really feel like the single most important thing that you've got to do in an internship is find somebody who's willing to give you, for lack of a better phrase, real work to do, not just the junk. I mean, everybody's got to do the junk. As a CEO, I always felt like I wanted the interns to see me take out the garbage, because everybody should take out the garbage. But in an internship, that's where you really want to try to find a relationship with someone that's willing to answer all of your questions, or at least some of them. And I got lucky and had a few people that helped me do that. So logically, that led to my first opportunity to actually work in an entry-level job at a radio station and start to get this crazy thing called a paycheck and work my way up. So the first section of my long old man career was about 10 years moving around the country as the program director and the on-air host at rock radio stations. That led to phase 2. In phase 2, there was this new thing hundreds and hundreds of years ago that was revolutionary. Hundreds of years ago, it was called MTV. And MTV used to really stand for music television. And that's where a lot of us that worked in radio saw music in the future kind of going into this radical world of television. So that was phase 2. In phase 2 of my career, I had about a 12-year run at both MTV and VH1, 2 different kinds of jobs. For some of it, I was one of the programmers deciding what you would see hour by hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That was like being a glorified traffic cop, because each one of you in this room would represent some key department at MTV that was needed in order to make a damn show and get it on television. I had to be the guy to say, are you ready? Are you done? When are you ready? You only have 2 more weeks. We had to get everybody to sort of march in line to a schedule. But then I really wanted to learn how to make television. So this is a note that will come up a lot in my career, and probably in all of your careers. I decided I wanted to make a pivot. I was standing in one place called radio. I wanted to be in another place called television. And in order to make that pivot, I had to make a decision. The decision was I might have to take a smaller job. I might have to take a smaller job title. And yep, I might have to take less money. But if I know where I want to go, at that case from radio to TV, I'm going to make this bet on myself that this is going to be another version of a college education, right? If I want to go somewhere else more desirable, then I'm likely going to have to come in at, I won't use the word entry level, but let's just say I ain't going to be the head of it, you know? And so I made that decision several times. Inside television, I wanted to learn production. I wanted to learn how to make shows. So I made that pivot while I was already in the big mothership and moved over to production, but for way less money, and learned how to physically make the shows. This brings us to the year of our Lord 2000, when the first internet bubble was happening, and I was seeing what we all are experiencing now, which is that radical changes in technology, which happen all the time, are gonna create and force radical change in the media business. So 2000, I got into my first kind of techie startup. I then had a short run working in documentary film. And then, let's see, 04, 05, 06, I had a job title that sounded really cool. I was the president of CBS Radio. But here's a life lesson in your career. I was working for a monster. The monster, you can Google it, was named Les Moonves. This guy was a legendary man in television, but mean, nasty, and vicious. And that was a really contentious relationship. So much so that I got canned, went home, and in 2006, I got this urge to say, I don't want to work for someone like that ever again. I'm going to do something really crazy. I'm going to start my own company. So you can Google this next long story, because I want to hurry up and get to resumes and LinkedIns. I'm giving you my version of my crazy LinkedIn and my crazy resume. But in 2006, we started something radical called My Damn Channel. One of the reasons I named it that was a secret message to the head of CBS. But the main reason was that in 2006, YouTube was still a baby. When YouTube was born in 05, most of the videos were dogs, cats, and babies doing funny baby things. That was the beginning of YouTube. And there were 100 or 2 of us, maybe a couple hundred, that looked at all that and said, maybe this is an opportunity to take real stars from movies, television, film, music, comedy, and get them to start doing these short videos. Maybe that would build a real business. And that's what our company called My Damn Channel did for 10 years. I had hundreds of people working for us making original series. Those people included Paul Rudd, Elizabeth Banks, Jonah Hill. It was the early experimentation of what later, 5 or 6 years later, became the original series on places like Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu. So we were kind of early, wacky pioneers. My last job before Headhunter Boy was created was at Audible, part of Amazon, the audiobook innovator. And that was a pretty good experience for a short while. They put me in charge of a gentleman in 2017 who was out of work. This guy that was out of work decided to write a book. And the book was written to honor his son, and that man was Joe Biden. And they put me in charge of this beautiful, amazing, giving, warm, helpful soul and said, go get everybody to buy and listen to that audiobook. And I worked with him one-on-one for about 4 months, and it was one of the greatest experiences in my life. But then what happened to me is going to happen to all of you at some point in your career. They called me down to human resources. And I thought, hey, I did a great job with the now president of the United States. So here comes my bonus. Here comes my raise. Here comes my promotion. But instead, I got this speech. It's always this speech. What I'm about to say is not personal, it's just business. They always say that. And we've made some changes. We're restructuring, they use that word a lot, this division, and your job's been eliminated. And I went, what? And I went home, and this is now the beginning of 2018, and I start sending resumes for weeks and months. And I'm not getting, the response that I thought I deserved because I just had this great, wonderful career. Why are they not getting back to me? So one day, in a fit of utter frustration and depression, a little bit of anger, I made this weird decision. I decided I was going to grab my phone and make a short little 2-minute video and just tell the truth. And I decided that I wasn't going to write notes. I wasn't going to do more than one take. I was just going to let it fly and see what happened. So I said something like, I'm completely stuck out of work. And if you're in the same boat and you're as frustrated as I am, then maybe we should put our heads together and help each other. So I uploaded it to the place we're going to talk about in a minute, the most important place in your career, LinkedIn. At about 9 o'clock in the morning, I also put it on Facebook, which used to be a lot cooler 6 years ago. And the likes started coming and coming and coming and coming. And by the time it got to nightfall, I was in shock because there were 600 lengthy comments on this sad guy video and 16,000 views. And I never imagined anything like that. And my phone was blowing up, and friends were texting me. Most of the texts were saying stuff like, dude, what are you doing? But I knew that one thing had happened. I struck a nerve, right? All that vulnerability, for lack of another perfect word, connected with people that were as frustrated as I was on this problem. Why the hell don't people respond to my applications? So the next morning at 9 a.m., I said, hi, this is episode 2, called Struck a Nerve. And I started doing this every single day at 9 a.m., short little videos with no game plan and no strategy. And after about 10 days, this guy called me and he said, hey, I love the videos. I met you at MTV 100 years ago. You probably don't remember me, but I own my own company now, and we're looking to hire a chief operating officer. Is that what you do? Are you a headhunter? And without pausing for a second, I said, yes. For the next 10 minutes, he went on and on and on about his company and what he was looking for, while I'm muting the call and half listening. I'm Google searching, recruiter, retainer, commission, percentage, fee, and figuring it out. It's not that hard to figure out if any of you want to become a headhunter. And at the end, I said, listen, I can fill this job. I just have one question. I need to know an estimate on the base salary, and I'll tell you what my fee is going to be. He said, Rob, I'm not going to lie to you. We are not going a penny over $600,000 a year. And I started weeping because I thought about all the mean bosses I had had in my career and what they paid me, sometimes to torture me, for 12 months. And then I thought about what my percentage was of 600,000, and I said, oh, this is a career. So my career really ended 6 years ago. I stopped climbing the show business ladder and decided that my new career was about helping every single one of you get through the BS, helping every single one of you figure out how to get the responses that you deserve and need in a world that has decided, sadly, that not responding is okay. Not responding is not okay, but I do want all of you to realize that it's sadly become the norm. So you've got to balance in a job search this ridiculous, painful, dangerous feeling that will come to you, which is, oh, it must be me, I'm no good, nobody wants me, versus the lovely career you just heard from this old dude saying, no, it ain't you. Even if you've had some of the coolest jobs in media, the normal response is not to respond. So therefore, let's get on with it. Let's talk about LinkedIn and the resume, and let's talk about why so many of us seem to be following a playbook that was written long, long ago. That playbook ends up making almost every resume and almost every LinkedIn feel kind of the same. So if this presentation is about do's and don'ts, here's your first don't. Don't do it like everybody else. Because if there's an open job right now, and you want it, you've got to stand out. And you're not going to stand out if you use the following language. Here it comes. I'm going to perform it in the most boring, non-Academy Award winning performance ever. I have X years of experience and a proven track record of success with a demonstrated history. You've heard some of these words, right? Everybody uses those words. Don't say you have experience. Let's show it. Don't say that you've got a great track record and other silly buzzwords. Prove it. That's the first do and don't on a LinkedIn and resume. By the way, I should mention, because it couldn't be a bigger picture, that after my long, crazy story, which of course meant I decided I needed to make a daily video every single day, because that birthed this. So what happened is, from episode 1, for about 4.5 years, I made a video every single morning at 9 a.m. There are more than 1,000 of them. They're all online, you can find them. But a literary agent found them and said, oh my God, this is a book. And I said, well, this is a book if you sell it and pay me to write it, then it will be a book. And so my COVID survival mission, and a beautiful thing that's still making my mom cry in heaven, is that I got to write a book about all that we're going to talk about for the next half hour. And because you've come here today, and because you're interested in this topic of how to do a resume and a LinkedIn that really pops, every one of you will get a free digital copy of the book just by asking my good friends at the center, who will provide it to you so you don't have to buy it. In this book, we're just going to talk about 2 chapters this morning that are the most important for this topic. Chapter 4 is called Your North Star. I got an email late last night from somebody who was looking for my help. So I did the thing that every single person does when somebody connects to you. You look at them on LinkedIn. And the first thing I saw under her lovely photo and under her name was career professional. And I went, ew, that ain't a job. And in the nicest way possible, I wrote her back and I said, please, please take this free copy of my book and read chapter 4. Because there is no job out there for any of you called career professional. You have to decide. You have the power to decide how you want to present yourself to every potential company and hiring manager. And what I said to this woman in the nicest way possible is that if mine didn't say headhunter, you wouldn't have called me, right? When I started looking at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of LinkedIns and resumes about 6 years ago, I noticed a lot of trends. The main trend that I noticed, career professional was sadly not one of them. That's about the worst thing you could say because it doesn't have any meaning. I noticed something else. I noticed what I'd call butcher, baker, candlestick maker, because I've got that old nursery rhyme in my head. I noticed that what a lot of people think at many stages of their careers, but especially early on, is if I say marketer, creator, editor, writer, how many is that, 4? The thinking is, hey, I can do all 4 of those things. So if I put all that on LinkedIn at the tippy top under my photo, I will have, this is the way people think, I will have increased my odds 4-fold that one of those 4 opportunities is going to spot it. But in butcher, baker, candlestick maker, here's what I've realized. If your bakery is swiping and swiping and swiping on LinkedIn like the fastest dating site in the world, they don't care about your skills as a butcher, and they don't care about your skills as a candlestick maker. They're looking for a baker. So what I'm going to ask all of you to do is really do some deep thinking about the thing that is in your control. What do you want? What do you want? To just say I want to get an entry level at insert name of network here is fine, but it's not going to help people see you in the way that you want to be seen. So this is really about picking a swim lane, and because I promised I'm not going to take more than half the time to rattle on up here, I'll just say that in chapter 4, there's a 3-step process to help you figure out, first, what's in here, because that's the most important thing. In a world that seems upside down most days of the week, what do you feel? What's in your heart? What do you really want to do? That's the most important thing. And then you can move up to the scary place called your head and start saying, do I think I've proven enough to myself that I can do that thing that I'm feeling? And then the third and final step leads us right back to the LinkedIn and the resume. How am I going to put enough evidence on those 2 damn documents so that it looks like I can bake bread, right? How am I going to reinforce it and prove it? So chapter 4 is your North Star. Now, we're going to break down the differences between LinkedIn and the resume. But I want to talk about LinkedIn first, because I really believe that LinkedIn is more important. Like the story I told you last night about this lady who was calling herself creative professional, the first thing I did is the first thing every headhunter, recruiter, and hiring manager does. They stalk you on LinkedIn. So they're going to see that way before you ever get to send somebody a resume. So on LinkedIn, the next thing that happens under this decision called your North Star, your career title, is the About section. That is a very, very important piece of real estate on LinkedIn, because the About section comes before anybody gets to scroll through your experience in your previous jobs or internships. They're going to read what you say. And because you're writing to your next boss, I really want to encourage everybody to write the About section in the first person. Speak to them like a person would speak to someone, right? The best thing that you can do on your resume and on your LinkedIn is jump out of that robotic, boring, old-fashioned speak and talk to people. So in chapter 5 of my book, that's where you're going to get all the detail on LinkedIn, resume, and something we won't have time to talk about this morning, but it's so important, cover letters. There's a little section in chapter 5 about how I recommend you do the About section. It's about 3 paragraphs, and I urge you to look at that, because that's where you can really bring out who you are and what you want and what you've done, and really bring your personality up to the front. Now we get into the experience section. And in that experience section, there's a big do and there's a big don't. The big don't is that so many people, even people that I've worked with who've been in a media career for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, a lot of people make the mistake of putting so-called achievements in the experience section that are not really achievements. If you're working in a company and that company is media and they have a production department, a marketing department, a sales department, it's not an achievement to say, I've interacted with multiple departments, including this, that, and the third one and the fourth one. That's not anything beyond normal, right? Because you're in a company, they've got all these departments, you work for them. If you attended important meetings, that's not an achievement, you know? If you, I just want you to think really hard about how to structure the experience section of your LinkedIn with bullet points that'll really stand out, that are specific. I always like to say that on your resume and your LinkedIn, you want to do something that's not so nice to do in real life at a party. In real life at a party, you don't want to be a name dropper. But on your resume and your LinkedIn, drop them all, you know? If you meet 5 different companies here today, you're meeting a guy whose mother raised him to never tell a lie, so I don't lie. But I'm going to say, that I have contacts at, and then name them, CBS, this one, that one, the other. You do want to name names. You want companies that are looking at your LinkedIn and resume to see that you have attachments to other companies and other people in media, and then you got to try to make those attachments into opportunities that show that you've got some work that's happened with those people. I talked earlier about taking a lesser title and taking less money. Another thing you could do in your career at any moment is do projects with people. It's great to be paid to do a project, but if you're looking for a job and there secretly isn't any money, but a friend of yours is in a really sexy media job and says, you want to come in and help me, go help them, because guess what? Now you've got a brand new piece of real work experience that you can put on the tippy top of your LinkedIn and resume, showing that you're doing something really great. It can be a secret that you weren't paid for it. Nobody's going to know, but they're going to look at it and they're going to see, developing original series for streaming on da-da-da-da-da-da, right? That's real. As long as my mom believes that you're not lying, then that's experience. And sometimes I use this phrase, hang a shingle, because Rob Barnett Media didn't mean anything. I made it up. It's the dumbest name in the world. But I told everyone that I was headhunting, and they believed me. So you could put first name, last name, media, and if you've decided that you want to be in production, and you've got some friends that are currently producing independent features, then first name, last name, media is currently working on the production of XDX show. Is this making sense? Am I getting this across? Because I haven't had enough coffee. But this is an important realization that you don't need anyone's permission to get busy doing stuff that really reinforces what you're professionally focused on, and then naming that and claiming that. So in chapter 5, when you look at the book, there's a point-by-point instruction on how to cater that experience section and how to make it point as much as possible to the North Star and the focus that you've got. There's nothing wrong with putting down internships, but I'm not a big fan of words like freelance, part-time, contract. That's kind of like almost giving too much information, and it's saying, well, I didn't really have a job, but I did this. So if you get a writing project and you're writing on something, and yes, it's freelance, don't say freelance, you're writing. Just say it, okay? Skills. Skills is something that I think people are a little too obsessed with on LinkedIn. Some people's LinkedIns have 9,000 buzzwords and they list them all. I'm not a big fan of that. I think it's much more important. I'm not saying don't do the skills game, but don't put every skill in the world thinking an algorithmic robot is going to find me because I put the word data in there and they're going to pick me. Just put the skills that really relate to what you've done, who you are, and what you want to be. Don't get too obsessed with, I need 700 skill words and the robots are going to find me. Recommendations on LinkedIn, very important. It's one thing to sell yourself. It's another to have someone that you've interacted with, especially if that someone is currently in a cool job title at a cool company, to say what their experience was interacting with you. It's really helpful, and I can't recommend it enough, that even, if you finished up an internship or one of your first jobs, right before you leave, say, could you please help me do one thing that would mean the world to me? Can you write me a recommendation? It's not hard to ask for. It's hard to ask friends for money. It's easy to ask friends for a recommendation on LinkedIn. It's very, very helpful. Now, there's tons more in chapter 5, but I want to skip to the resume now. The first thing I want to suggest is that you need to focus on doing one killer resume. I do not believe that your job search should be focused on, oh my God, I have to do a new resume because this job says that they're looking for insert name of one tiny little skill here. Now I've got to open up my resume. I've got to put that word in the Word document. Now I've got to save it to, forget all that. Focus on one great resume because, again, and this is also in chapter 5, it's the cover letter that needs to change every single time to really be specific and speak to the company that you're applying with, whatever, somebody help me with that word. But don't change the resume 1,000 times. Do it the best you possibly can, and then stop wasting time tweaking it every other week. Spend all that time looking at the companies that you really want to send it to. At the tippy top of most people's resumes, I see something that's now feeling really ancient. And I don't see something that's crucial. What I see is people put their street address. Who cares? Who cares? You don't need that. What you need at the top as far as contacts go is your cell number, your email, and the link to your LinkedIn. But instead of your street address, here's the thing I don't see. I'm going to give you a scientific stat. On 90% of the resumes, nobody's putting their North Star at the top of the resume. I don't know why. It's the most important thing. So I've made my decision. I'm a headhunter. Under my name, put that, whatever your word's going to be, right? If it's producer, writer, television development, marketing, whatever the word is, that's got to be right at the top of the resume underneath your name because it's the second most important thing. I don't know why 90% of the people don't do it. We recommend on a resume that you have something that we're calling the profile. Now, here's the difference between the About section on LinkedIn and the profile. As we said, the About section should be first person, and in Chapter 5, you'll see suggestions about how to do 3 full paragraphs on who you are. Don't feel like it's got to be tiny. Talk. Tell them who you are. On the resume, the profile should not be first person. The profile should be written third person, and it's a small capsule of who you are, okay? Just a small one. It's really an opportunity to write 2 or 3 sentences that reinforce your North Star. So that's profile. Here comes my favorite, easiest thing that I could ever say to help you. The experience section on the resume versus LinkedIn, copy and paste. There's no need to have 2 different ones. Some people think, oh, LinkedIn's got to be really, really short, and I can put lots more on the resume. You've got one shot for a potential hiring manager to see the best of who you are. So once you've decided how to perfect your experience section, copy and paste. Last thing I'll say, and then all the rest is questions from you guys, is look and feel for the resume. I don't think you need to spend too much time making something that's unbelievably visually out of this world, unless maybe you're a creative director or an art director. You know, I think that if you're coming at your job search from a world that is about beautiful visuals, then those are 2 examples of resumes where I kind of expect to see something a little zooty, you know. But in general, I just don't think you really need to obsess too much about look and feel. I think it can be clean and simple. The question I'm often asked is, how many pages? So I have a real point of view about that. Never 3. 1 is fine, but a lot of people are obsessed about some mythical rule that a resume must be 1 page. No, 2 is great, but it depends on where you are in your career, right? But I just don't want you to be scared about a 2-page resume. If you've got more to say and you feel like it's not generic stuff, but it's really specific stuff, 2 is good. I am one of the rare people in the world, because you heard my origin story, I respond. So if anybody ever wants to reach out to me, unless I'm, stuck in a prison cell somewhere, you can email me. I am really easy to find. The website, which I forgot to put up there, is robbarnettmedia.com. And then my email is rob@robbarnettmedia.com. I encourage you to explore the website. I really have 2 jobs. There's a main job and there's a second job. My main job is headhunter. So companies hire me exclusively and retained to fill open roles. When I have jobs to fill, there's a job section on my website. My second job, I don't use the word coach, I don't use the word consultant. I use a word that felt better. I just simply have what I call sessions. And I work one-on-one with people in just 5 different sessions, and those are all on my website, and you're happy to connect there. So we've got 2 mics on each side to make it easy. Don't be shy. We'll use every minute left that we have. And if you just line up at each of the mics, we'll rock out your Q's and my A's. And since you're first, you go first. What's your name?
My name is Cheyenne.
Cheyenne, hi.
Hi. Would you say that it's more important to apply to the job position or the job title?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Would you say it's more important to apply to the job position or the job title?
I have to be honest and say I don't understand that. Can you ask it in a different way?
Okay, I'll explain. I think sometimes, I know from experience, people will get caught up on a certain title, so they'll only apply to things that say like account manager, account manager, account manager, but in different industries, it could be different things, or you might find nuances between an account manager at Disney versus an account manager at Paramount, so.
Oh, now I gotcha. This is a really good question, and it opens up a whole nother topic, Cheyenne. There isn't a single person in this room that's going to check 100% of the boxes on every job description that's got 16 or 17 points where they say, you've got to do this, and you've got to do that, and you've got to do that, and you have to have 10 years of experience and all the rest. But I do think that regardless of what the job title or the job position is, you do have to really study that job description and look in the mirror and be honest with yourself and say, if I'm not checking about 60 to 70% of those boxes, no matter what the thing is called, it's really a waste of time to apply. They're not going to read between the lines and say, oh, they don't have any of this experience. But, you know, so you do have to make sure that you're lining up, especially on those years of experience. You might not have, they say you have to have 5 years of experience and you only have 2. You can go for it and see what happens, but I think that regardless of what it's called, study those requirements, study what they're asking for, and just make sure you're giving it as much of that as you can, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation, really informative.
Most
I
welcome.
have a question on,
Yeah, what's your name?
my name's Samantha, sorry. I should
No,
have
no
said that
worries.
earlier.
Hi.
So I have a question about the North Star. So,
Yes.
what happens with when the industry you want to go into is not the same as the role that you want? For example, I really want to go into like the publishing industry or anything related to its adaptation into like other medias, like television or audiobooks. But my role, I want it to be in marketing. So do I make my North Star on my resume like marketing, or do I make that like publishing and stuff like that?
Oh, great question. Did everybody hear the question? Yeah. So the North Star isn't about the sector, it's about the function, okay? It's really, you know, are you a marketer? Are you a producer? Are you a writer? But it's great to know what sector or sectors you're interested in, because then you can really start focusing on a list of target companies, right? But, you know, if marketing's your North Star, then that's what I'm talking about when I encourage everybody to pick a swim lane. Okay? Thank you.
So much.
Hi, good morning. My question has to do with LinkedIn and resumes.
Yep.
Sorry. If you're somebody who's like pivoting to media, what's the best way to craft your resume? So like myself, for example, I work in government. But journalism has always been my first love, and so I graduated about 5 years ago. And when I did, I was very much open to opportunities in both journalism and government, and I actually interviewed for like opportunities in both sectors, and the positions in government just came in more, and so that's kind of the route that I went on. But now, given certain things that are happening, I'm kind of trying to pivot back to my first love, which is journalism.
Yep.
And the way I've been going about it is basically creating 2 resumes. One with all my journalistic experiences and one with my like government experience. And so on the journalistic resume, you see like the op-eds I've written, the podcasts that I produced in grad school, all these things. And the reason I decided to keep it separate was because a long time ago, someone told me like, you don't want your resume to make somebody's head spin. So
You don't want your resume to what?
make somebody's head spin.
Oh,
when
head
they're-
spin.
Yeah, when they're reading it. And
Yeah.
so I guess for me, like now that I'm going to pursue like journalism opportunities, should I just combine everything and make
Yes.
it on like that
Yes,
three-page resume?
because I'm
that you see?
feeling like you know where you want to go, and you've got some of the goods to back that up. So there's no need to eliminate your government experience from the way you're presenting, but you do want to incorporate it so that it makes sense and lines up with the journalism that was a piece of all you've done. So I really would encourage you, as I said earlier, to not go out there with multiple resumes, because then you're half in one world and half out, and it's going to take twice as long to get there. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead.
Good morning, I think.
Hi.
Still, my name is Roseanne Green. My question, because your discussion really helped me, I have two main resume, and then there's a third one.
Uh-oh.
I've been told by persons because I have a PhD in theology, so I'm a minister, and then I'm in media, a TV producer for 15 years, and they told me separate both. And then moving from Jamaica to the US, there I was manager at different companies, but here I said, okay, I don't want necessarily start as a manager. I want to learn the media landscape and apply for a lower position. And I'm told, create a third resume because you don't want to scare people to say why you have so many qualifications and applying for a lower position. So I want you to help me in terms
Yeah,
of,
this
am
is
I
a
going
great
in the right-
question. Listen, nobody made a rule. There is no law that says that your resume and your LinkedIn has to represent every single moment that you received a paycheck or every single moment that you interned somewhere. What I want you to do is make this North Star decision, right, on what you want to be. But then the resume and the LinkedIn should be a process of elimination and overemphasis. So if 5 years ago I was really hard out of luck and I took a job working in a record store, I did that once, that's got nothing to do really with where I want to go next. So guess what? Record store, bye-bye in the car. It's just gone. Because if you find yourself in an interview with a lazy interviewer is going to go, tell me about this, and tell me about that, and tell me about this, and tell me about that. An interview is only 30 minutes. Somebody made that weird rule. So you don't want to get stuck having someone ask you all these questions about something that's not relevant at all to what you want to do. However, in your case, I think that makes you a more interesting person. So I wouldn't eliminate it, I just wouldn't emphasize it. Does that help? Yes. All right, thanks.
Hi, my name is Erica Murda. Thank you so much for the talk today. My question is not specifically related to resume, cover letter, nor LinkedIn, but I would like to ask you about more like a mentality aspect
Sure.
of being in an industry. So I figured like throughout your work experience, you've been experienced like a lot of changes in regards to like technology, how the entertainment works, as well as your personal like journey of your career. So my question is like, how do you be on top of like any changes, regardless of your environment or your personal life, in order for you to be like?
I'm sorry, how do you be on top of what?
How to be like? It's more like how do you keep up with or like be authentic to yourself, and as well as be adapt to any environment that you're in.
Wow, can we all agree that's the heaviest question of the day so far? It's a beautiful question. And, you know, in a world that seems to be currently having some trouble with truth versus lies, authenticity is maybe the single most important thing. Life is too short, as I explained in my little career, working for bad people. You know, the most important thing in your next job is not the salary. And it's not even really the exact vowels and consonants of the job title. The most important thing is the person that you're going to be working for and the people that you're going to be working with. So in every search for every job, they're going to end up doing reference checks on you before they offer you the job. I would encourage all of you to do reference checks on them and ask people what it's like to work there. And then in your interviews, in answer to your direct, beautiful question, be you. Don't try to be who you think they want you to be to get the job. Be yourself. Be your authentic self, because you want the person that hires you to see that. And then you're in a job that's going to have some possibility. I don't know if I answered it that well, but I love the question, and we can talk more after.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. I'm Odera. So you talked a little bit about cover letters, and in my past, like I've been writing my cover letters basically as a summary of my resume.
Yes.
A lot of recruiters have started to say that if that's what you're going to do, you might as well just not write one because they have your resume.
Agreed.
So I was wondering, like, in all the resumes, I mean, in all the cover letters that you've seen, what are some things that have really stood out to you and like made an impression?
I love this question. Did everybody hear it? Because this is really, of the 272 pages in my book, and of the thousands of people that I've helped for the last 6 years, this is one of the great secrets. Most people say, don't bother with a cover letter, like recruiters have said to you. People don't read it. You know why they don't read it? Because they stink. They're all blah, blah, me, 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 me. I did this and I did that, and I would be thrilled to work at insert name of company here. That's what most people do. And if you apply to like 70 jobs, you're doing the same one, and you're sending it out, and you're going, I'm working, I'm trying. The greatest secret is to make the cover letter more about the company than yourself. Do the one thing that 90% of the people don't do. Show them that you've done your homework. Show them that you have some really specific, interesting things to say about what they're doing. Ask some really incisive questions about what they're doing, and then tell them a few things about yourself. But as that other recruiter said to you, the rest is on the resume, okay? Do the homework before you write these cover letters, and they'll get read if they're about them, all right? I'm told we got to wrap up, so we'll do one more, and then I'm going to try to stick around at lunch, and we can do more, and you can email me, like I said. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Anna. Thank you for your talk. My question is mainly, I've been applying, and I've been like trying to research about how like to make my resume stand out, and a lot of things have come out about like automatization, like ATS.
Oh, yeah.
And I try to use it myself, like some of like the templates to see, but it's very much like, oh, you need to use this keyword, and I don't know, it makes me feel very much hopeless because I have one resume that says a lot, and like it says, okay, I can do this, but in a different way with my own words. And I don't know, my question mainly is like, how real is the application of ATS and
Yes.
versus just having your true only one resume?
Yes, we're ending on one of the best questions to end on, and I'm so glad that you brought this up. A guy called me last week, really sad, really worried, really frustrated, and he said, I've applied to 116 positions. And I said, I'm going to ask you a very direct question. How many of those applications were cold uploads? And he said, most of them. And I said, well, then you didn't really apply to 116 jobs. I don't believe that uploading a cold resume and a cold job application is enough. I'm not saying don't do it, but I am saying that you've got a second job every time you want to apply to any job. That job is called go on a search for the one person who's in charge. Play the most important game possible on your job search called Who's the Boss? And we can talk later about how to do that. This is all in chapter 8 of my book, where you've got to target and invite as many people to link in with you at each company that you're applying to as possible. Many won't accept, but when someone accepts, oh my God, you've just been given a gift. Now they've accepted you on LinkedIn. You're applying to a job at that company, so you write them a message and you say, hi, I'm applying to this job at your company, and I would just ask this one favor that would help me so much. Could you please forward my resume and cover letter to the person making the decision? It's the single most important thing that you've got to try to do every single time you apply. the quick answer on ATS is, yeah, everybody in the room should study up on ATS and make sure that the robots are going to like the way you've chosen your vowels and consonants. But this is so less important compared to finding someone who will make an introduction on your behalf, okay? Thank you all so much for doing this and coming, and I appreciate it. Thanks.